Today, I know you see the title, we going over the best vocal plugins for 2024. You know I don't like to keep you waiting, so let's get into it. Let's go. So what I have right here is I have a male pop vocal, a male rap vocal, and a female R&B vocal. And I'm gonna go through my favorite plugins that I have been using thus far this year a lot. And I use them because A, they work really well for me and I know them very well, but also they're really good. I'm also gonna go through this literally alphabetically by the plugin company. I think that'll be the easiest way for me to go about doing it. And we're gonna actually do some examples. I'll play you some of these vocals real quick. We'll just do this.
There's a lot of things going on in your life.
So that's the male pop vocal.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting.
That's the female R&B vocal. She kind of rapping a little bit, rap singing, but you know, it's all good.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody that stay at the tailor in rooms and ain't having no business in.
And that's the male rap vocal. So we're going to use these three vocals for different examples of what I like to use and what I have been using thus far this year. So the first one, Antares, auto-tune. I mean, if you're not using auto-tune or some kind of tuning, I don't even know what kind of music you're making. I'm just playing. There's a lot of music that you can make and you don't use any kind of tuning. That's cool. But auto-tune, goated. You want to experiment with your input type, see which input type sounds the best. Experiment with the tracking, especially if you're getting clicks and pops. But yeah, some auto-tune on this vocal.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a
Don't need too much for her because she's a really good singer. I like to experiment with turning the format on and off. I also use auto-tune effects. And if you use effects, go to the motion and adjust this motion glide so you can get a better tailored tuning.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I shouldn't ask any questions. Why must have good tears? I just.
Also, remember to turn your low latency off if you're mixing. If you're recording, keep that low latency on. But if you're mixing, turn that low latency off. It's like oversampling. The top end of the vocal just sounds better. It becomes a little more pristine, a little more clear. So next up, Arturia. This is a 1176 emulation from Arturia. They have some really good plugins. I use a lot of their other plugins as well, but this is one of the ones I do use often for vocals. Let us go to this vocal right here.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know.
One thing I like about this is it's linked and you can unlink it as well if you want. I love that because all plugins don't do this. They don't have this capability. Or even when you do link it, it's a little funky sometimes. But for Arturia, they did a pretty good job with this, and I like that.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me. That's what he's been screaming. There's a lot of things going on in my mind. Will you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me to peace? There's a lot of things going on in my mind. In my mind. In my mind.
It just gives a very good clamp. I can get an emotion and energy out of it. Some urgency. I like to use this on rap vocals a lot as well. And it has kind of a dirtiness, a grunginess to it that I like. A oldness, vintageness. I don't know. Maybe it's just the visual that makes me think that way, but it's cool, man. I like this one. I use this one a lot. They also have, where's the advanced section? Oh, you click this. They got an advanced section where you can adjust how it's detecting. There's a look ahead behavior and loose delays to detection. There you go. That's cool. High pass filters for the detection. We can boost frequencies to make the compressor detect. Maybe you could kind of use this as a de-esser in a way. Like I can boost 16K or wherever the S's are, and then I can use that to trigger the compression. Especially those, there's a lot of frequencies in this vocal where it's kind of screeching out or like popping out really loud. I can boost those right here, and I can use that to basically trigger when the compressor is going to compress.
There's a lot of things going on.
Also, if you want to get creative, you could just make a cool EQ situation right here and use this as an effect in that way.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me, need me, need me. That's what he's been screaming. There's a lot of things going on in my mind. Will you leave me? Would you leave me? Would you leave me? Would you leave me to peace? There's a lot of things going on.
That could be cool too, you know? You could do a lot of stuff with this compressor. It's a very like versatile version of the 1176. It's like they added some nice features that a lot of other plugins don't have, so this one is pretty fire. Audiomovers. I use this plugin all the time. Now, this isn't necessarily specifically for mixing vocals, but I do want to mention this because I use this to listen on my phone, to listen in headphones, on a Bluetooth speaker. I even listen through my TV speaker, all that stuff, my laptop speakers or whatever. I use this to see what the vocal sounds like coming through on my phone, because a lot of times the first way people are going to hear your music today often is on the phone. They're going to see it on social media, listening through their speaker on their phone. So I want to know how the vocals sound on the phone. I use this plugin to make sure I check for that. AudioThing. This is one of my like favorite sleeper plugins. I more so use this in parallel. I'll turn off the direct and I'll just mess with these bands, and I'll turn some of these on, turn some of them off, mess with the mix knob, and I usually turn this noise off. It's kind of crazy, but I'll mess with that. Before I even speak on it, I'm gonna just play this vocal and let y'all hear what this sounds like.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me, need me, need me. That's what he's been screaming. There's a lot of things going on in my mind. Will you leave me? Would you leave me? Would you leave me? Would you leave me to peace? There's a lot of things going on in my mind. In my mind. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me.
I love to blend that in with lead vocals and background vocals sometimes. You can get this hairy, grainy, riddly, timbre texture. Sometimes even on drums or something that just needs some extra timbre or character, I'll blend that in. I even like using this on some lady R&B vocals sometimes as well, but I like using it in parallel a lot. I rarely use it directly on a sound, but sometimes I do. It just depends. But on vocals, I like to use this a lot in parallel because it has such a cool thing. Like maybe I can give y'all somewhat of the effect by using the mix knob real quick. So let's just dial something in and see what happens.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me, need me, need me. That's what he's been screaming. There's a lot of things going on in my mind. Will you leave me? Would you leave me? Would you leave me? Would you leave me to peace? There's a lot of things going on in my mind. In my mind, in my mind. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me, need me, need me. That's what he's been screaming. There's a lot of things going on.
Just like that. I wouldn't normally use it in this way, but A/B in this, you kind of see what you can do with it and the texture and the way you can kind of transform a sound. So I'll A/B that real quick.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me, need me, need me. That's what he's been screaming.
That's pretty cool to me, especially how it brings out the You know, I can use that for a certain energy, and I think that's pretty cool. All right, we going with the stock plugins right now. We got Avid D-Verb. If you don't use D-Verb on your mixes and you use Pro Tools, you sleep. It's fire, especially when I'm doing delay throws. I'll put D-Verb on it just to soften the delay a little bit, to kind of sit it back a little bit, to blur the tab. It has a grainy, trashy texture that's cool, and it's a little rough. Sometimes I'll even use the ambient directly on a rap vocal. So for instance, on this vocal, I'll use the ambient or the room. It just depends. Let's go right here.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody that stay at the tailor in rooms and ain't having no business in. I know somebody that say they a Christian and questioning what they believing in. I know somebody that judging my actions and claiming that they're a religious man. You never can judge a cover by the book. Harsh truths get revealed when you look. Awesome, be quiet now. Hold on, let me cook. Hot like a pot on the stove. Hot like the summers I drove with the car window down cause my AC was...
It just gives you a nice quick space on the vocal, especially on rap vocals. I use this kind of often. I'll either use the ambient or one of these rooms. It just depends on what sounds the best. I'll just experiment. I haven't used the non-lin in a while.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody...
Listen to that non-lin. That is pretty good. That's a pretty decent non-lin. I would use that too.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody that stay at the tailor in rooms and ain't having no business in. I know somebody that say they a Christian and questioning what they believing in.
It just makes it feel like he's in a space rapping to me, talking to me. You know, it helps me with a good bass. So I would use all four of these. The EQ3 7-band, I use this all the time on background vocals and ad-libs, or if I want to make a telephone vocal type situation. It's just easy to use real fast, and it has a grainy, weird kind of feel and texture to it. Lo-Fi, definitely use this a lot on vocals. It just gives me a little hype, a little character distortion. Ad-libs, backgrounds, lead vocals even sometimes. Like I can use this in this case to kind of bring out a little more of the top end.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody that stay at the tailor in rooms and ain't having no business in.
I can use that distort to bring out a little more energy in that top end and kind of bring it more in your face. Or I can use the saturation to kind of soften it a little bit.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody that stay at the tailor in rooms and ain't having no business in. I know somebody that say they a Christian and questioning what they believing in. I know somebody that judging my actions and claiming that they're a religious man. You never can judge a cover by the book. Harsh truths get revealed when you look. Awesome, be quiet now. Hold on, let me cook.
Mod delay. I use this all the time too because it does what I need it to do. It's the most simple delay, but it just does what I need to do. And especially if I want a mono slap on something, I'll use the mono one and come down to mod delay. And it just works.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody that stay at the tailor in rooms and ain't having no business in. I know somebody that say they a Christian and questioning what they believing in. I know somebody that judging my actions and claiming that they're a religious man. You never can judge a cover by the book. Harsh truths get revealed when you look. Awesome, be quiet now. Hold on, let me cook. Hot like a pot on the stove.
Then if I put that on a bus or a send, I'll distort it. I might put some lo-fi on it and put a little reverb on it, put some extra texture on it because I can now customize that delay the way that I want to. It's very easy to use and fast. I use this EQP1A a lot. It's the stock Pro Tools EQP1A. There's no harmonics in this one. It's just the curves of a Pultec. I might even use it on a vocal just like this. So I would listen. I hear this vocal is very woofy. It's a lot going on in the low end.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody that stay at the tailor in rooms and ain't having no business in. I know somebody that say they a Christian and questioning what they believing in.
I wouldn't normally go that extreme, but since this vocal is that woofy, it just feels like it needs something like that.
I know somebody that say they a Christian and questioning what they believing in. I know somebody that judging my actions and claiming that they're a religious man. You never can judge a cover by the book. Harsh truths get revealed when you look. Awesome, be quiet now. Hold on, let me cook. Hot like a pot on the stove. Hot like the summers I drove with the car window down cause my AC was broke. Hot like my name when it's brought up about all of this music I'm dropping, I know. I used to wonder how far I would be if I never did quit it like 10 years old. Imagine them seeds that I would have sown. Imagine them peas that I would have flown. They always gonna pray for you until you make it. A lesson back then that I wouldn't have known. That just how I go, that just how I go.
Just like that, you could transform a super woofy vocal. This plugin is super goated. I like EQing a lot with analog plugins because it makes me use my ears. It makes me really pay attention to the sound and visualize the sound in my brain. And I like these limitations as well. It's not precise. I like to do broad stroke EQ first and get the tone, and then I'll come later down the line with more precision and detail. Bertom audio, or just Bertom, I don't know. But I use the EQ curve analyzer too a lot, just to see what's going on with plugins, what EQ curve they're creating. I even have this tester track over here that I always keep in all of my sessions. Alright, so That's wild. But that's the curve that we just did. That's pretty crazy that this is the moves that I just did on this EQ. But this vocal was hella woofy, you know? So this is what it called for to me. Interesting though. This is also why I like using analog EQs, because this went to 10, but you see the shelf goes all the way down to 20, negative 20 dB. You know, this is definitely lower than 10, but it makes me use my ears. I probably wouldn't make a EQ curve like this if I was using Pro Q3 or something like that. But with this, I got very limited amount of EQ points and very limited frequency selections. So I have to just go with what sounds the best. And oftentimes, this limitation somehow gives me a better result. This plugin is also free to just check and see what some plugins are doing. Celemony Melodyne. I use Melodyne a lot, especially in situations like this. But since we got the ARA stuff going on in Pro Tools now, I don't use the actual plugin insert. I'll just go here to Melodyne, click edit, and then I'll bring this guy up about halfway. And then I'll enlarge my vocals that I'm actually tuning, and I'll go through and tune those vocals. This is from Slate Digital / Eiosis. I don't really know, but I use this plugin a lot, especially for brightness. I oftentimes use it on my overall lead vocal bus. I don't normally go to this for my main EQ for really anything, but it's a final detailing EQ. I like the 6 to 10K up here. I like the air up here. It's pretty good. I use some of these dips as well. Like this is my preset, my starting point, and it's basically for vocals like 250, 500, 1K, 2.5K, 8K, and then there's a high pass and a low pass if I just so happen to need it. I hardly ever do, and it sounds good. Sometimes I will use it directly on the vocal, just depends on the situation, but this is a pretty good EQ. FabFilter Pro Q3. This is the only plugin from FabFilter that I use. I've tried Saturn, it's cool. I've tried the L2, it's cool. I've tried the C2, it's cool. This plugin right here though is legendary. Now, I will say, I'm gonna be honest and transparent. It does kind of have a slightly cloudy effect, but I have grown to learn when I shouldn't use this plugin. Sometimes if I'm stacking Pro Qs on top of Pro Qs, then I'll use a different EQ because this does have somewhat of a cloudy-ish effect. It's very subtle, but it adds up. I use it kind of sparingly, but I use it for very detailed stuff most of the time. It'll be one of the plugins towards the end of my vocal chain just for detailing, and it's also so fast. Like I can hold down option and just click and drag. I got a dynamic band, and also the bands, the way you can solo stuff is so great and unique. I just love that feature. Sometimes I'll just use this for soloing bands to find things.
I know somebody with a degree or student, somebody that said
all of that right.
I know somebody without a degree or student.
Also, I can hold down option and use my scroll wheel and just scroll down, and this is crazy. This is so, they thought about everything with the workflow of this EQ, and I love that. It's like, bro, they thought about everything for real, bro. They was a genius. Whoever, all the people who was, you know, part of making the workflow of this EQ are geniuses. Ozone. I only use 2 plugins on vocals from Ozone most of the time. I do use some other ones. Oh, first off, RX. Damn, iZotope. Okay, I use the D-Click, the D-Clip, sometimes the D-Crackle. That's what I use the most. Sometimes the mouth D-Click and the spectral denoise or the voice denoise, just depending on how boo-boo the vocal is. But most of the time, I'm just using D-Click, D-Clip, because sometimes people record vocals too hot and it's super clipped. Sometimes you clip and it's like, that's cool. But when I get vocals, sometimes it'll be clipped and distorted, and this is a magical plugin and it just brings it back. All right, so the plugins that I use on vocals from Ozone, I use the Spectral Shaper. So I'll find that harshness, especially if some harshness is popping out to me in this upper mid range, I'll oftentimes use this to try to attack that a little bit. I just like how it softens it. To me, it sounds a little different than how I might do it with multiband or with dynamic EQ. It has a softening effect that I like. It's just sweeter in a certain way. And sometimes I go for this over using multiband or dynamic EQ. And then the other plugin that I use on vocals is the Exciter. Oftentimes I'll just use 1 or 2 bands on a vocal, but sometimes I'll use all 4 of them. But it has a cool sound and texture, and it has so many different, you know, styles you can choose from, and you could just add flavor and texture to a vocal. So I'll use this a lot. Joey Sturges Tones. This is one of my favorite wideners. I use this a lot on effects, on delays. I'll use it on background vocals, ad-libs. Maybe I'll put a flanger on something and then put this right after to like really push it out to the side. It has just a unique way of doing the spreading. It's just different, and it has these different modes. It has classic, subtle, balanced, extreme, and then high-end enhancer, mid-range pusher. It's dope. I think everybody should check this out. It's a fire plugin. Korneff Audio. These guys are very cool. I like their plugins. Even just looking at this feels so fun. This plugin I just started using maybe a week or two ago, and I immediately was like, where have I been? This is such a good plugin. It looks a little, I mean, it doesn't really look daunting because it actually tells you what everything is. It's a 4-band modern vintage EQ right here. This is the other part. So these are 2 bands. This is the other 2 bands. This is a high pass and low pass filter right here. They have the channel offset situation thing that you can do right here. It has like a scope right here, so you can see how wide or narrow things are. You have a compressor right here. It's a VCA compressor, it says. I'm assuming this is the EQ, if the EQ is pre or post the compressor. You got your input gain, your output gain right there. There's this insufferable mid-range filter, which is kind of cool. If there's a frequency that's kind of poking out, going crazy, you could use this. And then it has these different types of them, you know, 2 of them, 3 of them. That's pretty cool. And you know, this is your reduction. This is the frequency that you choose. You can listen to the frequency. It's pretty cool. And then if you click this right here, we flip that thing over, and it has this proprietary signal processing module, which adds some saturation, tone, shape, and character, all kind of stuff to your audio. That's pretty cool, pretty unique, pretty different. You can turn this thing right here and drive it a little more or something. It's pretty cool. There's a wet dry right here. We got your oversampling. We have modern and vintage for the equalizer characteristics, which is pretty cool. This is like a band that is like a dynamic EQ, I guess, technically, for 1 band. But this is a very cool channel strip. Let's mess with this and see what happens.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I shouldn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I shouldn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I shouldn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I shouldn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Oh yeah, yeah. Thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I shouldn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I shouldn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflect.
That's cool. Let's add a little brightness.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Oh yeah, yeah.
Just for fun, we'll mess with this insufferable mid-range filter.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Oh yeah, yeah. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl?
It's not a fair bypass because I turned the volume up. So maybe I should have put a trim plug in before, but fuck it. Alright, well this is my EQ moves, it seems.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Kind of distort things right there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing.
Then there's this right here.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business,
Whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way.
This stuff is like cool because you can add more character and texture. Like you can new circuit to old circuit and you see how much more movement the EQ curve line gives you. That's something that analog equipment used to do. Like the EQ curve wouldn't just be a static EQ curve. How a lot of these digital plugins are, even, you know, this plugin or Pro Q, Neutron EQ, whatever. The EQ would move a little bit because it's juice, it's electronic current flowing through it, you know, and the audio is flowing through it. So it's moving, and I think that's cool. It adds a little extra flavor. So I like using this a lot just to start off, just to get a little more of that energy and that feel. Y'all should check this out. And they have these different like types right here. If you go here, you can turn this on right here.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way.
I'm kind of liking this aggressive mid-range a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way.
That's a better AB, 0 to 100% on the dry wet.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way.
So yeah, this is a cool plugin. I definitely think y'all should check this out. What's this plugin called again? This is Korneff Audio Amplified Instrument Processor. I did not say that at the beginning, so thank you for saying that. McDsp. This has a fire slap delay. Like these slap delays, you got magnetic, digital, and analog. I'm normally using the magnetic and the analog, but sometimes I use the digital.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressed, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Oh yeah, yeah. Shit,
You're gonna adjust the groove. You can.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressed, got me all up in my head.
You can switch it to dual, and you can adjust the delay on each side. You can turn it into a normal delay even if you want to.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Shit. You got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson.
Then they even have the ducking right here. This is kind of small. Let me enlarge that for y'all real quick.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way.
Then you can EQ it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me.
People sleep on this. This shit fire. This is a very good delay. I use it for slaps often, but sometimes I do use it as my just normal delay. I'll normally use it on a bus or a send, but just for, you know, speed, I'm using it directly on the vocal. FutzBox. I use this all the time on ad-libs and background vocals. I'll use this to make some kind of, you know, telephone effect or just some interesting kind of vocal distortion effect.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit. You got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I
just off rip, the ability to go through all of these, and you have these just cool EQ'd, like, look at all of these. This is crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed.
It's just right here. You feel me? You don't even have to be like, oh, let me EQ and figure out what the... Nah, bro, just go here. Oh, I want a telephone effect. Oh, let's go to telephone or cell phones.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting.
That's fire to me. And then you can go even crazier and you can add your own saturation and, you know, EQ to it as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Oh yeah, yeah.
Fire. MixLand audio. MixLand audio for real now. All right, the RubberBand compressor. This is a fire compressor. I use this a lot on vocals. I literally use this on this vocal when I mixed it on this male pop vocal. I use this compressor on the lead vocal. It sounds so good to me on male pop vocals. It's just the attitude and the tech. Originally, like when I was trying to use that the Arturia 1176, this does something similar but just better, you know, for what I'm going for with this type of vocal. And there's an EQ on it. It's a high and a low shelf. So let's bypass that.
There's a lot of things going on in your life, and I know that you need.
They got oversampling. Let's just go for it.
There's a lot of things going on.
One thing I don't like about this plugin though is it's on auto gain, but as y'all saw, I turned this up and it gets louder.
There's a lot of things going on in your life, And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking.
The auto gain don't really work the way that I would want it to work. I don't know what's up with that.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me, need me, need me. That's what he been screaming. There's a lot of things going on in my mind. Will you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me to peace? There's a lot of things going on in my mind. In my mind, in my mind. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me, need me, need me. That's what he been screaming. There's a lot of things going on in my mind. Will you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me to peace? There's a lot of things going on in my mind. In my mind, in my mind.
Good compressor, man. It's good on drums too, but I use this a lot on male lead vocals. Faux show for a pop a lot. Oeksound, we all use it. Soothe. I don't even feel like I really need to say much about this. I have, a couple presets on here, but this is how I like to start off on vocals. It's not flat, but it's kind of flat. This is literally on my lead vocal bus. I like to use it as a finisher. So I want to do everything that I can do to get the vocal sounding the way that I want it to sound, and then I'll throw it on towards the end. And I like it to be kind of flat like this, even though it's not really flat.
There's a lot of things going on.
You see it's doing stuff, but it doesn't have any of these things boosted or anything like that. It's just ready for me to get to using it the way that I like to. I don't want to use this as a crutch. A lot of times Soothe can take a lot of character and personality from a vocal because it's suppressing resonances. It's turning down resonances as it recognizes it, but every sound has a resonance in it. That's how we recognize the sound. And I don't want to remove it, and I don't want to turn all of them down. I just want to relax certain regions, So I like to use it as a vocal finisher if I need it. Plugin Alliance. So I'm new to using Plugin Alliance plugins, but I have very quickly found some plugins that I really like on vocals. So we're going to start with the black box. We don't even need to go too much into the black box. If you don't use the black box, you sleep. I use this a lot in parallel just to add a little more hype, a little more energy to a vocal in parallel. Sometimes directly on the vocal is doing a little bit too much and creating too much of a recognizable character. So I like to use it in parallel. This is the Brainworx 2098 EQ. I use this a lot on background vocals because I really like these notches. I'll use these notches. To me, in background vocals, there's always a buildup, especially if there's a lot of background vocals. There's usually a buildup in certain frequency regions, and I like to just use these notches to relax that buildup a little bit. I use that for this. They also have a nice high boost. I also like that you can do the analog thing where the left and right differs. So that also helps me get a little extra width and depth on my background vocals when I use this. You can also widen it right here if you want. Then you could turn up the THD, turn it up or down, however you like. So it's a pretty cool plugin. I use this on background vocals a lot. The SSL 4000G. This is my favorite one of theirs. This is the one that I use the most. It just has a cool sound. I think I would probably use it on this vocal as well. I like the compressor on it.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me, need me, need me. That's what he been screaming. There's a lot of things going on in my mind. Will you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me to peace? There's a lot of things going on in my mind. In my mind, in my mind. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me, need me, need me. That's what he been screaming. There's a lot of things going on in my mind. Will you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me to peace? There's a lot of things going on in my mind. In my mind, in my mind.
That's just a little something right there, but I like the compressor on here. I like the EQ. It sounds good. It's very polished sounding. I just like it, man. It sounds good. The Maag. Now, I use the Maag on here, but I would use this pretty early because it's already EQing. Like, let me show you. Because it's doing this little wavy thing that's kind of cool, but if I've already EQ'd the vocal to my liking and then I put this on, to me it just messes it up. I feel like I'm fighting my EQ.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me, need me, need me. That's what he been screaming. There's a lot of things going on in my mind. Will you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me to peace? There's a lot of things going on in my mind. In my mind, in my mind. There's a lot of things going on in your life.
But I like to use it lightly as a little nice enhancer and sweetener for real. The SPL Vitalizer. I actually use this on this vocal in parallel. I like using this more so in parallel than directly on the vocal. It adds me a nice grainy texture, saturation thing that is just very cool to me. And I like using this in parallel a lot. We'll just play with it real quick on the vocal.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody that stay at the tailor in rooms and ain't having no business in. I know somebody that say they a Christian and questioning what they believing in.
And you hear that crunchiness, that's kind of cool to add as a flavor in parallel. Here we go, Kirchhoff-EQ. This is what I use oftentimes on vocals these days, especially for the high pass filter. So even like in this case, I would do everything that I've done to the vocal and I would come back and just give it a nice high pass with this.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody that stay at the tailor in rooms and ain't having no business in. I know somebody that say they a Christian and questioning what they believing in. I know somebody that's judging my actions and claiming that they're a religious man. You never can judge the cover by the book. Harsh truths get revealed when you look. Awesome, be quiet now. Hold on, let me cook.
I use it for the high pass filter, the low pass filters. I use the dynamic EQ on here.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody that stay at the tailor in rooms and ain't having no business in.
They got the analyzer on here as well.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman.
I use this in combination with Pro Q3. There are times where I want to use the Kirchhoff over the Pro Q because it depends on if I'm leaning into that Pro Q3 sound or do I want something a little more transparent, but the Kirchhoff-EQ does have a sound as well. So it just depends on what I'm going for. The oven, I use this in parallel a lot. It has some cool saturation, some texture and vibe and everything. I use this in parallel pretty much 100% of the time. I don't really use it directly on the vocal, but it's cool. Let's play around real quick.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me, need me, need me. That's what he been screaming. There's a lot of things going on in my mind. Will you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me, would you leave me to peace? There's a lot of things going on in my mind. In my mind, in my mind.
Just gives me a nice hype, a nice forwardness. But again, I like to make my own bus and use it in parallel and blend it in that way. But it's a cool plugin to use like that. Now we're finna get into some effects. This is Relab Development. This is the Lexicon 480 Essentials. This was free from somewhere, I forgot. But this is a really good plugin. We'll listen to it real quick.
There's a lot of things going on in your life.
Already it sounds good, bro. They make very good reverbs. This is the only one that I have of theirs, but I've heard a lot of their other ones and it's really good, bro. It's fire. And they got a bunch of presets in here that are really good. It's a good plugin, bro. I recommend it. Oh, whoa. Slate Digital. I use this compressor. This is the VBC FG Mu. I use this a lot, especially on rap vocals. It's fire, bro. I got 2 presets. This is my starting point preset. There's nothing really going on. It's just ready for me to start using.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life.
This is good compression, but then I have this other one that's EQ, and it basically has like a low shelf going on.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him.
That just cleans up so much. I'm using that to clean up a lot of stuff going on down here in the low end. Just quick shelf, and that's basically what it is. If I go to this one, it's just up a little bit, so it kind of gives me the audible impression that not much has changed for real, but that EQ situation has happened, which is why it kind of leans itself towards vocals, because oftentimes I do want to shelve off some of this stuff going on down here, and it gives me a nice little boost maybe centered around 2K-ish, which is sometimes pleasant, you know. Verb Suite Classics. I use this all the time. I got a lot of presets.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me, need me, need me. That's what he's been screaming.
I normally wouldn't put this directly on the vocal, but we're doing it for speed today. This has some very great reverbs. It's got a bunch of emulations you should go through. They have expansion packs that I still haven't installed yet, but great reverb. Highly recommend the virtual mix rack. So there are a couple plugins that I use in the virtual mix rack, but I'm gonna go over the ones that I use the most. All right, so the first thing is this virtual channel. Sometimes I'll put this on my all vocal bus and just pick which one sounds the best and give all the vocals a little bit of drive, a little, you know, input or whatever. I like using this New York one on kind of edgy, aggressivist vocals, so maybe rap vocals, maybe a rock vocal track, just some edginess. It gives me a little bit more of that. I like using this EQ on vocals in general. It's a SSL 4K emulation EQ. Like, it sounds really good to me, and I definitely, you know, experiment with turning the oversampling on. And then this one, the Hollywood preamp, I guess, I like using this on lady vocals, lady lead vocals. It gives me a nice sweetness to the vocal, especially on some R&B stuff. It's a nice, sweet, and pleasant saturation to me. Softtube. This is the only plugin that I really use the most. I do use saturation knob every now and then, but I don't use it as much as I used to use it. But I still use this a lot. But I like using their short room. The studio to about right here just is a very good room sound on vocals. I like using it just for that.
There's a lot of things going on in your life. And I know that you need him, that you need him, that you need him. He's what you've been seeking. There's a lot of things going on in your life. And you need me, you need me, need me, need me. That's what he's been screaming.
I just like the studio in the room a lot. It's just really good. I like this on vocals. We're almost there, guys. We're finna start flying through these. Decapitator, everybody knows this. I use it directly on the vocal sometimes with parallel, extra grit, distortion, harmonics, flavor, feel, character. I'll use it on effects as well. It's goated. I feel like we've been using that for so many years. I don't need to say anything else. Devil Lock Deluxe. I oftentimes use this when I have a soft vocal and I want to make it a little more aggressive, or maybe the diction isn't as prominent as I would like. This just brings it up in a nice way. Echoboy. Echoboy is my go-to delay. Again, another plugin we've been using for years. I feel like I don't need to say nothing about this, but it's fire. You could click tweak right here. You can adjust the width, the left and right offset, the accent. You can go here to style edit, and you can adjust the EQ even more detailed of the saturation and the way that the EQ is working with the delay and all that kind of stuff. You can diffuse it a little bit. You can adjust the size of it. They got even more selections of how the wobble works down here. They got even more saturation, like an extra saturation right here. You can turn that up into it or whatever. It's cool. I mean, obviously you can turn the saturation up right here, and there's so many different delay types right here. You can even go to rhythm echo, and you can go over here, and they have, you know, different types of shapes and stuff that you can do. You can kind of customize them as well. Customize your repeats. It's like, it's so much in this. It's so much, bruh. Little Altar Boy. This is my go-to if I want to pitch shift.
There's a lot of things going
Yeah, it's just cool, man. I can pitch stuff up and down really quick, and it has a cool algorithm for it, and it sounds cool. Microshift. I use this a lot. Sometimes I will use it directly on the vocal, just a little bit, small little bit of a percent. I'll see what style sounds the best. I'll mess with the focus. I don't know if y'all know what the focus does, but just real briefly to show y'all what the focus does. We'll amp that up. So as you move this around, the way it's like phasing and dipping and stuff, it changes. So it kind of changes like the EQ, and it's worth moving it around to see how you can adjust the sound a little bit. And then if you do it like that, now it's opening it up. It's focusing where it's like a high pass, you know what I'm saying, on where the modulation is happening. So something to pay attention to if you want. Pan Man, I use this all the time on ad-libs, sometimes on background vocals. Sometimes it'll be pretty cool to get like a stack of background vocals and then put Pan Man on the bus and just kind of have them like panning off to the left or off to the right or something. Also, I like how you can go to the tweak and they have these different analog styles and they all sound kind of different and it's kind of cool. SSL. This is my favorite SSL channel strip for the E channel. I like the filters, the high pass and low pass filters. I like the compressor. I use it a lot on background vocals. I use it a lot on lead vocals, especially rap vocals. It has a nice squeeze, pinch, and hug of things together. But it also has an attack and energy, a personality with the compression. And sometimes I'll even use a little bit of this gate to just tighten up a performance a little bit, make something a little more cutty, a little more choppy. It's cool, man. It's a good channel strip, bro. It's fire. And also you can like use the mic to give it a little extra saturation. This is the one that I use the most. They have some other channel strips, but I don't really use those. UAD. So I like this 1176. Is the anniversary edition. I really like this one a lot because it has a 2-to-1 ratio and it's not as aggressive, or I don't have to be as aggressive as some of the other 1176s because sometimes the 4-to-1 is a little bit too much. But I also like that you can do the all buttons in thing on here, and I use this in certain situations in parallel just to get a different kind of effect. So this is a very cool plugin for that, but also just for some regular good old compression, 2-to-1 to 8-to-1 to 20-to-1 or 4, whatever you want to use. I kind of actually like to use it on something that I want to keep a little smooth, but I want to add a little bit of attitude to. I don't want to get too aggressive, but I want to add a little bit of attitude to something, so I'll use this for that. The Avalon VT737 channel strip. I like the compression on here. I oftentimes really use this on lady R&B vocals. I like the EQ on here. It has a nice saturation and character to it already. Again, I have my other preset on here just as a good starting point for me. The EQ is good on here. If I come down here and we use it on this.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane.
It's like sizzly in a nice way. You know, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just sizzly and sweet in a nice way. Good plugin right there. I don't really use this reverb that much, but it's a very good reverb. The Capital Chambers reverb.
Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why my sad girl tears, I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane.
Good reverb. DBX 160, I use this all the time on rap vocals. This is like one of my favorite rap vocal compressors. This is not a rap vocal, but fuck it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't.
You can already see the attitude that it gives. It just has a certain type of grab that gives you an attitude. But sometimes I'll use it on my all vocal bus or my all lead vocal bus on a rap song because I can use it to give me a nice glue as well. This is a dope compressor and it's so simple, but it just works so well. 9 times out of 10, if I'm using a distressor on a vocal, I'm gonna use this one. I wish there was auto gain on this compressor though.
Hot like a pot on the stove. Hot like the summers I drove with the car window down cause my AC was broke. Hot like my name when it's brought up about all of this music I'm dropping, I know. I used to wonder how far I would be if I never did quit it like 10 years old. Imagine them seeds that I would have sown. Imagine them peas that I would have flown. They always gonna pray for you until you make it. A lesson back then that I wouldn't have known. That just how I go, that just how
I feel like it's hard to make this sound bad. Fairchild, I oftentimes use this on background vocals. I don't use it on lead vocals that much. Sometimes I do, but I oftentimes use it on background vocals because I just like how it glues and I like the texture and the vibe and the feeling it gives to background vocals. The LA2A Silver. Love using this on lady R&B vocals. This is my number 1 and 2 go-to compressor for lady R&B vocals. I usually start with this. I'm almost there. The 224, good reverb. It's different and it's cool and I like it too, and it's kind of got some overlaps and similarities, but it's a little different, but it's a little similar. So I feel like we're good on that. The Neve 1073. I oftentimes use this to give a vocal a little bit more character and saturation and warmth, really. I like to use this as a little more warm and fuzzy, like this 220. You come down here and just boost a little bit of that, or maybe the 110 sometimes. It's just a nice warmth, you feel me, that I get from this plugin. And I have a couple presets just to drive it a little bit. This is +5 on the drive, +20 on the drive, 10, 15. This is the default that it usually pulls up as for me. And this default with the EQ out. Sometimes I just want the saturation and I don't want the EQ. But if I do want the EQ, I can just click that and turn the EQ on. And then the top end is kind of sweet as well. So do with that with what you will. Pretty nice plugin. So this is the pull tech that I use the most when it comes to vocals.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why must I go tears? I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane. Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why must I go tears? I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane.
It's just so nice and sweet. I can quickly transform and tilt a vocal in a nice pleasant way really fast. Okay, this one right here. I like to use this a lot on background vocals, but I really like to use it on lead vocals for the dip. There's this dip right here that's just so nice and musical to me. So if I
shit, you
hear that wonkiness, that all that right there, it's a little lower than that, but all of that, I just use this to dip sometimes and it gets rid of all of that for me.
Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why must I go tears? I just be on my...
It just gives me a better like place to start from. But I also use it on background vocals sometimes, especially for this peak. I can peek through some frequencies on some backgrounds just so they can cut through a little bit better. Sometimes I use this. I normally use this on my, well, not normally, but sometimes I use this on my all vocal bus or my all lead vocal bus, just for a little extra saturation, a little extra EQ, a little extra vibe. You know, just running it through some tape just to see if it gives me a little extra feeling. That's really all.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson, if it wasn't in my bed, I just didn't ask any questions. Why must I go tears? I just be on my way. Long as I mind my business, I won't end up insane.
It's cool. It's not really appropriate to me for this song, but it's cool. That's it for UAD, guys. That took a while. Valhalla. I only use one plugin from Valhalla the most, and that's Valhalla Supermassive. I don't have Valhalla Vintage Reverb. I know you can judge me if you want. I don't have it. I don't use it. But I do use Valhalla Supermassive creatively. There are a couple of presets in here that I like. I use this small and wide for a nice little room reverb sometimes. I normally would use it on something like this rap vocal.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody that stay at the tailor in rooms and ain't having no business in. I know somebody that say they a Christian and questioning what they believing in. I know somebody that's judging my actions and claiming that they're a religious man. You never can judge the cover by the book. Harsh truths get revealed when you look. Awesome, be quiet.
And then just blend that in a little bit.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody that stay at the tailor and
just gives it a nice little space, a little bit of life. All right, the moment we've all been waiting for. Waves. Buckle your seatbelts up because it's about to be a long ride, but we're almost there. We're almost at the end. Now this, I more so use for my effects. I like to use this as my go-to sidechain compressor or ducker for my effects. If I have a reverb that I want to sidechain to the lead vocal or delay whatever the effect is, I'll use this because the attack is kind of fast and the release is kind of fast, and I have my little effects rider preset. I'll just use this to duck that reverb down or delay down, whatever the effect is. So this is my go-to for that. All right, the C4 and the C6, this is a tandem situation right here. Oftentimes the C6, I like these notches on here, so I'll use a notch on here just to like dynamically notch out frequencies, kind of like how a Soothe would do, but it's me dialing it in. But I normally use the C6 when I need a little bit more versatility and control over the C4. I like to use multiband compression in general on background vocals, but specifically the C4 to lock in the frequencies that are trying to jump out. So that'll help me keep a more level and balanced background vocal package. So that allows for that lead vocal to have some frequencies that are a little more dynamic than the other ones, and it helps me create some depth that way, because a lot of those frequencies aren't jumping out and coming to the front, they're staying ducked in the back, which helps give me that illusion of front to back. CLA vocals, I use this when I'm mixing fast. If I have to mix a song fast, I'm oftentimes going to use the parallel compression from the CLA vocals. I'm going to start off like this. This is me starting out. I'm going to bring up the push and I'm going to see what that sounds like. And I'm going to experiment with the spank in the wall and see what that sounds like. I'll use that. I'll use some of the EQ. I more so only use this if I have to mix a song like fast, like they need it like today, you know, because it helps me get a certain hype and a certain energy quicker. Sometimes on ad-libs and background vocals, I'll use the slap or the quarter note or the stereo wide spreader or whatever on ad-libs and background vocals, just to give things a quick space. Sometimes I'll use the tight and large reverb as well, or the chamber. I oftentimes will use this to make effects as well. I might make an effect and put CLA vocals on it just to, you know, make the effect sound a little cooler. Clarity, VX, sometimes I'll get vocals and I hear the room. So this will be the first thing that I try to use to get the room out. The doubler 2 and the doubler 4 is same stuff. I use this all the time on all types of vocals, lead vocals, ad-libs, background vocals. Everybody uses the doubler. It's a classic plugin. I don't know if it's ever gonna go away, but I use that all the time. I don't even think I need to say too much about that. Everybody uses it. Kramer tape. All right, I use this a lot on effects, but I also will use it a lot in parallel. To me, I can get this kind of glassy sound. If I use it in parallel and blend it in with the lead vocal, it gives me this like smooth, glassy sound. And sometimes that's very classy. So depending on the situation, I'll do that. I like to play around with using the slap as well, depending on where I'm putting it on. It's pretty cool. The L1, I normally use this on background vocals just to make sure there's no peaks. That's literally all I use this for most of the time. I'll link both of these and just chop off some peaks. I'll make sure that nothing goes too crazy, too array. I might sometimes use it on ad-libs as well. The L2, sometimes I'll put this directly on the lead vocal, or sometimes I put it on the lead vocal bus or all the vocals, just again to catch some peaks. And it also has a sound. It has a attitude, a personality or something that's pretty cool. I think y'all should definitely experiment with that. Max bass. I'll use this a lot for the filter. Like if you bring this down, it's basically becomes like a high pass filter, but it's very like, I just feel like it deletes all the information down here. And sometimes I just want all that to be gone. You know how sometimes you'll do a high pass filter and it's still stuff that's left over? To me, this one just gets rid of everything. So it ain't nothing left over. Sometimes when I need a filter like that, I use this. And oftentimes I use it on ad-libs and background vocals because it helps me have that separation, because there's no rumble left over on the ad-libs or the background vocals, and kind of helps add a little more separation to me. Metaflanger. I use this all the time on effects, on background vocals for sure, just ever so slightly. You don't even need that much. Sometimes I'm just around like 1 to 10 on this plugin, just a little bit. And then you can mess with the stereo. You can push it all the way out to the side. You can, you know, whatever you want to do. You can sync it, you can match it to the tempo and everything. I oftentimes just dial it in a little bit myself. This is a fire plugin. Another classic. NLS channel, some nice good old saturation. I use the spike the most, honestly, but sometimes the mic and the Nevo, they get their share of participation. But nice drive, man. I use it directly on the vocal or on the vocal bus or whatever. Puig Child 670. I use this a lot on rap vocals. Here we got my little starting point right here. It's fire. This one, it just sounds really good. This is the one, I actually like this one on lead vocals more than the Fairchild for UAD. It's dope. I don't really have much to say about it. It's just a good compressor and it has a nice sound. I feel like we haven't demoed anything in a while, so let's just do it.
I know somebody that stay at the Taylor in rooms and ain't having no business in. I know somebody that say they a Christian and questioning what they believing in. I know somebody that's judging my actions and claiming that they're a religious man. You never can judge the cover by the book. Harsh truths get revealed when you look. Awesome, be quiet now. Hold on, let me cook. Hot like a pot on the stove. Hot like the summers I drove with the car window down cause my AC was broke. Hot like my name when it's brought up about all of this music I'm dropping, I know. I used to wonder how far I would be if I never did quit it like 10 years old. Imagine them seeds that I would have sown. Imagine them peas that I would have flown. They always...
Nice, solid compression, that's all. Sometimes I'll use R bass on a lead, on a vocal, just to give it a little more body, a little more low-end warmth. You know, kind of like this vocal, it's kind of lacking.
I know somebody without a degree or a suit and he claim he a businessman. I know somebody that stay at the Taylor in rooms and ain't having no business in. I know somebody that say they a Christian and questioning what they believing in. I know somebody that's judging my actions and claiming that they're a religious man. You never can judge the cover by the book. Harsh truths get revealed when you look. Awesome.
Just give me a nice little warmth, a nice little body. It might be needed in a situation like this where I kind of took out a lot of that low end and it might need to come back in a more controlled, smoother, sexier, more appealing way. I use the R channel. Pretty much this is my go-to EQ and compressor for my effects. I got my R channel start, was a high pass, and a low pass up here, and then these are bells. The 2 and 3 is bells. It's automatically on RVox. I use this a lot to really control and dial in my effects. So this usually is like the last plugin on my effects chain. So that's obviously me using RVox, and that's obviously me using the Renaissance EQ. So I don't feel like I don't need to talk about those, but I do use those. And sometimes I'll use RVox directly on the vocal. It's a good compressor. It brings stuff in your face. It's dope. And I do use the R compressor as well. I oftentimes use this on background vocals and ad-libs, but sometimes I use it on lead vocal as well. Bro, it's a goated compressor. It does what it does. It can dance, you know. Reverb, I'll use this reverb a lot. It's a dark reverb. I'll use it on effects as well a lot, similar to how I use D-Verb, but I like the hall settings on here just to layer into other reverbs because it has a dark kind of grainy texture that is cool with other reverbs. I use it for that most of the time, or on effects. The S1 Imager, I'm still using it. I don't care what nobody say. It's right here on all my vocal effects. Sometimes I'll just spread all my vocal effects out just a little bit. Sometimes I'll put it directly on an effect. I'm still on the S1 Imager. It sounds great to me. Sibilants. This is my go-to de-esser for background vocals and sometimes ad-libs because it does a good job to me of picking up the sibilants and just compressing it ever so slightly for background vocals, whereas sometimes the S's might be a little off, or one might be louder than the other. It just does a good job of grabbing all of it and doing what I need it to do. Okay, SSL EV2 channel. I do use this a lot. It sounds really good. And then the SSL E channel, the classic one that we all used, I still use this a lot. I use this on background vocals all the time. I love the compression on here for backgrounds and the EQ, like it just works well. So I still use that a lot as well on backgrounds and ad-libs, sometimes on lead vocals as well. Super tap, I use this often on effects to make a delay that's unique and delays at the times that I want it to delay. I use this a lot in that way. True Verb, I don't know if y'all know about the Millennium Verb preset in here, but it's pretty goated and classic. But I also like to use the early reflections on here. Sometimes I'll just put this on a send and blend that in, or sometimes I'll just put it directly on a sound and blend that in. It helps with creating some depth. So I really like the early reflections and being able to like single those out and use those however I see fit in a mix to create depth and dimension and all that kind of stuff. But they also have some good reverbs in here and it's very customizable, so that is a blessing. We're almost there, guys. VEQ3 and VEQ4, I use both of them. I like using this on, it don't matter what vocals it is, but it's an emulation of Neve EQs and it sounds good to me. I've been using this for a long time and I know how it sounds and how I like using it, especially on background vocals. It has a sweet, slightly warm sound. I know I keep saying sweet, but maybe that's just my aesthetic. But then there's ways to make it aggressive as well, you know. Oh my goodness, guys, I think we made it. Waves Factory, SK10. Now this is a free plugin, but I don't think people use it the way that I use it. To me, I can get some body and some warmth out this plugin, so I would use it in a situation like this for this vocal.
You was a lesson if it wasn't in my bed.
So you hear that right there. Now let's find the warmth real quick.
Oh yeah, yeah. You got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson.
Somewhere around there. Now I'll blend that in and just listen to what we get.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, you got me stressing, got me all up in my head, thinking about shit and reflecting. You was a lesson if it wasn't in my bed. I just didn't ask any questions. Why must I go tears? I just be on my way.
It's just a nice bit of warmth and like body and presence. It's just like, yo, this shit is just different to me, man. I'll be using this all the time, but this is what it's doing. It's so strange and so weird, but it sounds cool to me, especially like lady vocals. Sometimes they end up being very thin, and this gives me a nice warmth and body. All right, let's see what else we got. Oh, Spectre. Everybody uses Spectre. If you don't use Spectre, you're sleeping. Great plugin, good saturation. You got these different types. You can saturate per band, which is pretty cool. Fire plugin. If you ain't using it, you should definitely demo it and check it out. RC20. I definitely use RC20 on lead vocals, especially when I want to get just a little bit more vibe, similar to how this plugin right here adds some randomness to the sound. I will try to simulate that with RC20, so I'll add a little bit of wobble, a little bit of noise, maybe the distort, not all the time, and a little bit of magnetic. These are the three that I normally use, and I'll just mess with the settings until it sounds right. Sometimes I'll put RC20 on my effects as well, but I'll go through and I'll pick stuff and I'll just figure out what sounds good to me. Guys, we have made it to the end. If you've made it this far, you'll likely love the YouTube membership exclusive content. I share even more in-depth information on various topics, more mix breakdowns, live mixes from start to finish, and so much more, including video requests. People pay tens of thousands of dollars to schools and don't get anywhere near as much information I share there. Join below for only $10 a month and get the same experience as these members. Now back to your video. That is my favorite plugins that I use on the daily for 2024. We'll see what we got next year in 2025. But if you're liking the vibe, like and subscribe. If you want me to make a video about something, let me know in the comments and we're gonna get to it.